in this video, we're going to annotate that curriculum sheet we just downloaded. For this, you're going to want both your transfer guide that you annotated in the first video as well as the curriculum that you downloaded in the previous video. Quick side note, now that you know which degree program you're in, so if it's Associate in Arts, Associate in Science, what have you, if you go back to the transfer guides page and look for your transfer guide again, you'll notice that they have either AA or AS in front. Whatever it says in self-service, make sure that you have a transfer guide to match that. So if you are in the Associate in Arts program, you want AA in front of your transfer guide. AS is for Associate in Science, AATP is Associate in Arts Teacher Preparation, and I don't have one on this list, but ASTP would be Associate in Science Teacher Preparation. We're going to be looking at an example in this video from UNC Chapel Hill in psychology. So you'll notice here there's both an AS and an AA. Because our student example is in an Associate in Arts program, we want to make sure that we have this transfer guide downloaded instead of the AS one. So if you downloaded an AS and perhaps you're enrolled in an AA, then you want to download that correct one to make sure that everything maps together later. So for this part of Module 4, we're going to be annotating the curriculum that you downloaded in the previous video. So go ahead and open that on smallpdf.com or in whichever PDF editor you prefer to use, or you can print it out and do this by hand as well. So we're going to go section by section here and find the courses that we're going to take while we're here at RCC. And throughout that process, we'll go back and reference your specific transfer guide. So you may not be Associate in Arts, and you may not be transferring to UNC Chapel Hill for a psychology degree, but the same process should apply as long as you follow the instructions in this video. So the first section that's going to be listed on your curriculum guide, it's time for us to start picking our classes now. So we're going to go through this curriculum sheet and highlight the classes we want to take while we're here at RCC based on information we can find in our transfer guide. The first category is academic transition. This is going to be this ACA class that you're currently taking. So go ahead and highlight that. Everyone needs to take that to transfer, so go ahead and highlight it. Then we have our Gen Ed transfer components. So there are going to be some specific instructions under each of these categories. We want to make sure that we follow those. So English composition is going to be required for everyone. So you go ahead and highlight your 2 English courses. Next, we're going to move to Communications and Humanities and Fine Arts. Some of the sections will have specific instructions like this, so make sure you read that and choose courses appropriate for the instructions on your curriculum guide. Here, it says select 3 courses from at least 2 different disciplines. So I'm going to need to pick 3 courses from Communications and Humanities and Fine Arts. So this category here, I'm going to be picking 3 classes from at least 2 different disciplines. At most, 1 comm course may be used to fulfill requirements in this category, so I can only select one of these for this specific section. This is the first part where we're going to go back and look at our transfer guide. So I'm going to look at my transfer guide and see if I need any communications classes and highlight those. You can see here I need Communications 231, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. And then because I can only pick 1 communications class here, I'm not going to select 120, even though it's on my transfer guide. We'll come back to that later. Then I need to pick 2 more classes, right? So I've picked 1 class. I need 3 total. And I'm going to look and see if I have any art, English, music, or philosophy courses. So if I scroll back up, I'm checking for art, English, music, or philosophy, and that'll be English in the 200 level. I don't have any. What you can see here, though, is 6 credit hours, so that's 2 more classes, being required for the Humanities and Fine Arts. So what that means, if it's student choice or no preference, is I get to look at this list and pick whatever 2 classes I want from there. So let's say I'm going to take Art 111, and I'm going to take British Literature 1. So now I have 3 courses from this category. Next, we're going to move on to the Social and Behavioral Sciences category. You're going to need to pick 3 courses from at least 2 different disciplines. So what that means is I can't take 3 history classes. I can take 2 history classes and an economics class or a psychology class, but you need to pick at least 2 different subjects for your 3 total classes. So if we look back on our transfer guide, you're going to check and see if you have any economics, history, political science, psychology, or sociology requirements. You can see here I have ACA-150 as a requirement, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that as one of my options. And then I don't have any other social behavioral science recommendations for specific courses, which means I get to choose the last two classes I'm going to take. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Sociology and American History 1. So now I have 3 courses from at least 2 different disciplines. Mine are from 3 different disciplines. That's okay as well. You just have to have at least 2. Your next section here is going to be mathematics. So you have to pick one math class or whatever the instructions here tell you. So you may need 2 math courses in a sequence. You may need 1 math course. It depends on your specific curriculum. So follow the instructions there. If we go back to our transfer guide and look for math, which we should have highlighted blue in the previous step, I'll see that I need Math 171 for my transfer guide. So I'm going to highlight Math 171 here on my curriculum sheet, and that is going to be my math class. Then I'm going to look at natural sciences, which has specific instructions again. I need a total of at least 4 hours, so 4 credits over here. If we go back to our transfer guide, you can see that I need to take biology 111 for my transfer. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. If you have student choice, no preference, you can pick whichever natural science course you want to take. Then, after you have selected those classes, there are still a few sections left on your curriculum. So we're going to complete these kind of in the space at the bottom of the sheet. So you'll see here I need additional general education hours, so that's going to be 13 to 14 semester hours. So I may need 13, I may need 14. It depends on how many credits I've earned elsewhere. Then we have PE and health, and then electives. So we're going to now go back to our transfer guide and put these classes in whichever category they may fall into. So it might be a little bit of back and forth here, but we're going to go ahead and fill out all of these categories with the number of credits that are required for them. So you can now go ahead and scroll down that transfer guide and see which courses have yet to be listed, right? Remember we selected those courses? Some of them aren't in there yet. So the next thing we're going to do is pick all of the classes that we haven't yet put onto the curriculum sheet from our transfer guide so that they're all listed in one place. First is going to be our Gen Ed courses. So this is going to be anything from that page 94 in the catalog if you want to refer back there. Or if you go back to your transfer guide, you can look anywhere that says additional general education courses is going to be something that will fit within this category for Gen Ed. So for my Gen Ed courses, I'm going to need 13 or 14 semester hours. So that's going to be about 5 classes. Include my foreign language 111, my foreign language 112, and my foreign language 211. So each of these courses are 3 credit hours. So I can go ahead and put 3 next to each of them. Then I'm going to go back and scroll a little bit more and see if anything else says additional general education courses. So right here, this communications 120 class, remember we couldn't fit it above in the communication section because you can only pick 1 comm class. So instead, handy little tip, it's going to go into the general education courses category. So I'm also going to include comm 120 here in the Gen Ed section, which is also 3 credits. Then I'm going to go back and see if there's anything else, and it looks like I have 2 more hours of general education. So what that means is you can go into that big list of Gen Ed courses and select any class that seems interesting for you to take. To find another course for general education, what we can do is go back to page 94 of the school catalog and pick any class from this page, so they'll all count for Gen Ed. Because my intended major is psychology, I'm interested in these psychology courses over here, so I'll probably take both of them while I'm at RCC, which means I can put 1 in the Gen Ed category and come back and use the last one for electives in a moment. So I'm also going to add Psychology 241, which is 3 credit hours, and then I have fulfilled all of the requirements for additional general education hours. Next, I'm going to select my PE and health course. So you are required to pick 1 PED or HEA course while you're at RCC. I'm going to go back to my transfer guide and see if it specifies which one I need to take. You'll see here, I need to take PED 110 for my transfer university. So I'm going to add another section down here, put physical education requirements, and I'm going to take PED 110, which is 2 credit hours. The last thing I need to do is get my 13 required hours of electives. If we go back to the transfer guide, this is when we will look for any classes that haven't yet made it onto the curriculum guide. So if I scroll down, I see no classes that are not yet on my curriculum. If there are classes, you need to put those first for your electives. Even though there are no classes left on my transfer guide, I still need 12 more hours of elective credit to graduate from RCC and transfer to my transfer university. So what we can do is go back to page 94 of the catalog again and select any class from here, or if you scroll down to page 95, you can also select any classes from here. Because the example student is transferring for psychology, it would make sense to take Psychology 281. So I'm going to go ahead and take that for one of my extra classes. And then maybe also social diversity, because that sounds like something that might be relevant to a career psychologist. That's only 2 classes though, and I need 4. So for your last few classes here, if there's nothing else you necessarily need, then you can just pick anything that sounds interesting. So it can be from the Gen Ed college transfer courses or from your elective courses. So let's say I also just really like art and I love painting. So for my last 2 elective classes, I'm going to take 2 painting classes at RCC, and that's going to count as an elective for me that I can then take to transfer for elective credit at my transfer university. So I'm going to go back to my curriculum guide and enter in these electives so that I have them written out. So I have Sci 281, Sociology 225, Art 240, and Art 241. So each of these classes are 3 credits, which will give me the 12 that I need for my transfer guide. There are 2 ways that you can find out how many credit hours a given class is going to give you. Most of them are 3, but that's not always the case. So you can go into the catalog and find course descriptions and scroll through all of these until you find the class that you're interested in taking. That can be kind of difficult to navigate though, so the other thing you guys can do is go into self-service and click on course catalog. You'll see a list of all of the different subjects, plus a subject bar that you can use to search. I was interested in taking Art 240, which was a painting class. So I can just click on Art here and scroll until I find the class I'm interested in taking. So that's going to be Art 240, which is 3 credits. Another thing you can do in self-service is go to your progress page. We're going to be looking at this progress page again later in the assignment, but it is a great place to help you pick your classes for your specific degree program. So if you look here at the progress bar, that's how many classes have already been completed at RCC if you've already taken classes here. And if you scroll down, you'll see which of your requirements have been met. So for example, we already have credit for this course. Some of these courses are planned. Yours won't look exactly like this, but it does give you the same instructions that you saw on that curriculum sheet. So for example, take 9 credits, minimum 2 subjects, you would pick from these. And if you click on a course in your progress page, it'll bring it up in that course catalog so you can see how many credits it's worth, when it's available, and other information like that. It's also helpful to scroll down here and look at your Gen Ed hours and elective options if this is easier to look at for you than the catalog page. So all of these courses are the same ones that are listed there, but it'll also give you that ability to click on it and it'll tell you how many credits that course is worth. So you can select courses from this list if you've already used all of the Gen Ed requirements on your transfer guide. There's also a section for electives. So if you want to see the long list of electives here on self-service instead of in the catalog, so if you want to see the list of them here in self-service instead of in the catalog, you can do that as well. By now, you should have a completely annotated curriculum sheet with all of the courses you plan to take while at RCC, including your Gen Eds, PE courses, and electives. So what you should do next is save this as your curriculum annotated in a place where we can access it again for the next video.